In this video, I want to show you how we schedule the work of ministerial committee for most of the ordinary duties that we do, as well as planning for a meeting of ministerial committee. Again, you begin at your Gmail account, and from here, we'll go to our directories and Drive. And from shared drives, we select ministerial committee. And I can either do a search up here in the search line for the annual calendar or annual schedule for ministerial committee, but I know that these are under the minutes. And so I have placed in this directory two items that you will access pretty frequently, and they are the calendar for the committee and the template for ministerial committee minutes. So let me begin with the calendar, and this will give you an overview of the work of ministerial committee. This is not etched in stone. Chairman may choose to allocate the work of ministerial committee in a different way, but here are the things that we do regularly on a yearly basis. In the month of January, we of course have a meeting of the ministerial committee. Our meeting time that we have set currently is 3 p.m., or excuse me, the third Thursday at 2 p.m. And the bylaws of Presbytery allow us to meet virtually and conduct these meetings virtually. Also, during the month of January is when we review teaching elder annual reports. We ask for those reports to be sent in the middle part of January, and they're emailed, those requests are emailed in December, and you'll see that under December. The third item under January are excused absence forms for teaching elders for the next meeting of Presbytery. So before the month's end, we send out a form to our teaching elders, which they complete if they wish to ask for an excused absence for an upcoming meeting of Presbytery. We have meetings of Presbytery in February, in May, and in October. And so the excused absent forms are typically sent out at the end of January, the end of April, and the end of September for upcoming Presbytery meetings. February, the items on the agenda list, again, would be the monthly meeting of Ministerial Committee, and of course, there's a Presbytery meeting. In March, we have the monthly meeting of Ministerial Committee, as well as in April, and then the excused absence forms are sent out by Ministerial Committee for the next meeting of Presbytery. It is the responsibility of Ministerial Committee to provide Presbytery a list of excused absences that qualify as an excused absence, and to have Presbytery accept those. That's usually in the list of motions that we give as a combined list of motions called an omnibus motion. In May, we have a committee meeting, third Thursday. Presbytery meets in the month of May, and then sometime, usually in the latter part of the month of May, the ministerial committee, probably the chair, will send out the annual report forms. There are two different forms, and there will be an instructional video for these forms coming up later. But the two forms that are sent would be a form to candidates under care. This is an annual report about their work and their interest in ordination and continuing the process of preparing for that. And then the second form is sent to their teaching elders who are appointed as ministerial advisors for them. June, we have a monthly meeting of ministerial committee. July, there's another meeting of ministerial committee, and we assign members of the ministerial committee to go through the reports that we receive from our candidates and ministerial advisors to approve those reports and to note those in our minutes. In August, we have a meeting again as a committee, and sometime in that month, usually at the end of the month, we send a form to our retired teaching elders. I'll go through with a video showing you how to prepare and send that form and how to read the responses that are received by that form. In September, there's a monthly meeting of the committee, and then in September, we send to the clerks of session the terms of call forms. And this is where we ask clerks of sessions to complete the changes in terms of call for their teaching elders, which all need to be approved by congregational meetings. The submission of those forms back to the ministerial committee is really varies from church to church. Some churches will establish a budget in the fall and recommend a change in the terms of call for their teaching pastors and their teaching elders. And we'll have a congregational meeting to approve those changes in the fall. Some churches, many churches, combine that with an annual meeting where they report on various activities in the church. And usually this happens after the new year. Some of them as late as February or even March of the year. So you will get terms of call forms in various times from the fall after you send out the form request to maybe March or even April. Again, in September, we send an excused absence request form in preparation for the upcoming meeting of Presbytery in October. In October, we have a meeting of ministerial committee as well as Presbytery meeting. In November is when we have not only the meeting of the ministerial committee, but also we send out the annual report request for teaching elders. And I will show you in a video how that report is sent and how the responses are read and then submitted. And then in December, we have a monthly meeting of the ministerial committee. Now, as I said before, the chair ministerial committee or the committee itself may decide as a committee or as a chair to alter some of the timings of these. So this is a very strong suggestion, but a suggestion of how to see the overview of our work. This particular calendar is particularly helpful to share with new members of the ministerial committee to give them an idea of the workflow, because the goal for ministerial committee chairs is to engage our members of the ministerial committee to be active in the work of ministerial committee. If you try to do all of this work on your own, it will be a very huge amount of work. So let me talk to you just a moment about the monthly meetings of ministerial committee. And what I usually do is I go to this template for the ministerial committee meeting and I open that document. And let me just give you a little bit of an orientation for documents as well as other items within Google Workspace. Documents, forms, and sheets within Google Workspace all have in the upper right-hand corner next to your initial or your emblem a button called Share. This is where we determine who has access to that particular document or that particular form or that particular spreadsheet that we have. Again, the items within ministerial committee are typically very confidential, and we wish to err on the side of confidentiality. So if you click this, this will show you who has permission to access this particular document, which is a template from ministerial committee meeting minutes. And here you see we have placed all the various members of ministerial committee. We also have added our stated clerk of presbytery, as well as the moderator of presbytery. And in the bylaws of Presbytery, the moderator of Presbytery during that person's year of service is given the position as ex officio on all of the permanent committees of Presbytery. And ministerial committee is one of those permanent committees of Presbytery. Ex officio means that that person is not only allowed to uh, attend a meeting of ministerial committee, but is also allowed to read its documents and to have voice and vote at those meetings. Ex officio means by office. By virtue of the office of moderator, that person is a member of ministerial committee. This is very important when you send a notice for a committee meeting out to your members. And I will, in just a moment, show you how we send a notice to our committee for a meeting upcoming. Anyway, this list will show you the people who have access to this document. And then general access, you have the choice of restricting that document, or you have the ability to share it with anybody within the presbytery. We choose to have these restricted only with people on this list who have access to open the link. Again, to open the link for this document, a person needs to be in their Gmail account for fcpresbytery.org. So if we're coming up to a committee meeting, this is a template that I have for that. And you see on here that I would enter the date and the time. Here are the names of the people on the committee, all of whom have been invited or will be invited to attend. And there are different things that we do during the committee meeting. Usually committee meetings are very brief meetings. There will be a motion. Maybe the motion is to recommend that a candidate be recommended to the floor of presbytery to be received as a candidate under care. Could be a motion to authorize or recommend a person to be examined for ordination, or any other kind of motions. There are certain motions that the committee can make that it only reports to presbytery, such as renewing the stated supply of a stated supply arrangement between a ordained pastor and a church, or it could be renewing a commissioned pastor relationship. Those have to be renewed. The stated supply by the Book of Order has to be renewed once a year, and a commissioned pastor needs to be renewed once every 3 years. But they are renewable, and they are intended to be temporary pastoral relationships, but typically they're usually more long-term. Anyway, these are the three main items that we would have. So when I am approaching a meeting, a ministerial committee, I want to save this template so I can use it over again. So let me go make a copy of it. So I go to File, and there's Make a Copy, very plainly labeled. And here is the new name for it. So I am going to delete the first part of that. This is now called copy of the template. I don't want it to be called that. I want it to be called the Ministerial Committee Meeting Minutes and then I'll put the date. Let's say it's for March 15th, 2023. And it shows what folder it's in. It's in the Ministerial Committee Minutes folder, which is where it belongs. And I'm going to share it with the same people. Comments and suggestions are usually not really applicable to minutes. So now I have the Ministerial Committee meeting minutes for 3/15/23. So I'm going to close my other documents here, and I'm going to insert the date for that meeting, which is March 15th, 2023. Time for that meeting, let's say it's going to be 2 p.m. And I already have my attendance. These are the people who I'm inviting to come to this meeting, who are members of the ministerial committee. And so I'll go down here, and as the month goes by, before that meeting occurs, I will have items that need to be acted on. So perhaps an item would be like to move teaching elder Smith from the active role, Presbyterian, to serving out of bounds. So that would be an item that the committee would move, and that would be an item that sent to Presbytery. Under discussions, these would be things that the committee wishes to stay abreast on. Some of these are items that that a liaison from the committee is responsible for. So, for example, we may have on here the ministerial committee budget for the next year, and I will list the items there showing the budget. And then updates would be usually I put pastoral searches. So, for example, the Presbyterian Church of Greenwich and our Presbytery pastoral search. So while that search is being done, that will be on the template or on the minutes for the ministerial committee. And this reminds us that the liaison for that church will be asked to report any kind of update on the search for that pastor. As I said, as the month goes by, items are added to that. If I have a candidate that wishes to come under care, I would put under update or usually under item discussion to arrange an interview with candidate Jones. And this is a reminder as I go through this meeting to say, oh, by the way, we need to look at our calendars and arrange a meeting time for us to interview this candidate, Jones, Mr. or Miss Jones or Mrs. Jones or Mr. Jones from XYZ Church who wishes to come under care of Presbytery for the next period of time while they're in seminary. So this will give you the template for minutes that we have for a meeting. So on March 15th, when that meeting occurs, I will have the video on my screen, but also I will have this. Sometimes I share the screen and go through these items one by one and have a conversation with the members of ministerial committee as we go through these items and vote on them or to discuss the things that are going on. We are required in committees, standing committees of Presbyterian General Assembly as well, to begin our meetings with prayer and close our meetings with prayer. And this is always on, these two items are always on the agenda. So setting up this meeting, you have several choices to do that. You can set this meeting up through Google Calendar. And there are instructions on Google Calendar how to schedule a recurring meeting. This is a recurring meeting. It occurs every third Thursday of the month at 2 p.m. And you could even use the video link that Google has for conducting a video meeting. And in that meeting, you can share this, you can share your screen, which might be the list of these items on the committee minutes. Or you could set up a meeting by another um, video platform, such as Zoom, which I typically use. And I set up the meeting, I copy the information, the login and password information for that meeting, and then I send an email to all of the members of the ministerial committee, along with a copy of this minute sheet. This minute sheet will give them a heads up as to what is going to be discussed at an upcoming ministerial committee meeting. Now, if there is really nothing on the list of these items to discuss, you may choose not to meet that month. And typically the months where you do not have something to discuss or work on together as a committee would be the month of June or even July. And we have in the past not met on the months of June or July. And often we have not met the months of a presbytery meeting, typically because the timing of our regularly scheduled meeting of ministerial committee is so close to the schedule of a meeting of presbytery. And because we do our interviews and our oral examinations online, we do not need to meet before presbytery. Sometimes ministerial committee and the chair of the committee may decide to do those interviews in person, and sometimes those interviews are conducted the day before presbytery meets, or even the day of a meeting of presbytery. This has been done in the past pretty regularly, where the presbytery will meet on a Saturday and all day Friday. Members of ministerial committee will come early to the location of the presbytery meeting and conduct their committee meeting along with examinations of people who are coming under care, examinations of candidates for ordination, or examination of people who are transferring their EPC ordination credentials to our presbytery. These have to be done by oral examination first by ministerial committee, and the committee traditionally has done those in person the day before presbytery. This has become an issue, and the issue that we faced in the past was having a candidate come for that interview on a Friday, expecting to be examined for ordination, expecting to be examined for ordination on the floor of presbytery on Saturday, and having such a high expectation that they have actually brought family members to attend that examination and have already planned their installation and ordination. So the committee in the past has felt undue pressure to go ahead and authorize or recommend that a particular candidate go to the floor of presbytery when that candidate may not be ready for ordination. It's important for us to recognize, as chairman of ministerial committee, that we are part of the gatekeeping system of the EPC. And one of the ongoing conversations that happens behind the scenes is a conversation regarding who is the gatekeeper. Sometimes ministerial committees presume that the written examinations are the gate, that if someone passes written examinations of the EPC, they should automatically be approved by ministerial committee to be examined and ordained for office. But that's not true, and that's not what the Book of Order recommends. The Book of Order says that it is up to the discretion of the presbytery through the ministerial committee to see that a person is adequately qualified to be ordained as a teaching elder. And so the gatekeeping responsibility is really the responsibility of the ministerial committee. You as a chair would be setting the time for that. So this is how we conduct a meeting. Now, just a word about agendas. Some chairs of ministerial committee may choose to do a separate document of agenda items. At present, our policy or our practice, actually, our practice is to do the minutes. And so while a meeting is going on, whoever has the minute page up on the screen, typically it's the chair of ministerial committee, is recording motions that are made and making adjustments to the sheet. So we have one piece of paper currently that serves as our agenda and as our minute page for ministerial committee. In taking the minutes, typically we do not record the gist of every conversation, but we do record the actions taken by ministerial committee. It would be wise if an examination is being done by ministerial committee of someone preparing to be ordained or installed, that I mentioned in the minutes about having a background check being viewed and approved by ministerial committee, that mention would be wise to be placed in the minutes of the meeting. So this is a very brief orientation of the annual schedule and calendar for ministerial committee and the various activities that are done throughout the year, as well as an overview of what a committee meeting would look like.